Just because I love you, it don't mean I trust you. Everybody not to be trusted. Everybody around me thugging. Everybody around me drugging. Everybody around me hustling. Everybody know not to bring no new rigging around me. They say I be bugging. Got racks in the go-yard luggage. Just because I love you, it don't mean I trust you. Everybody not to...
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Uncut with Q. I'm your host, Quentin Flores. And today, guys, we are going to be going into a lot of different things. But for the most part, I really appreciate everybody that's gotten back into listening to the podcast. We have been so consistent with posting an episode a day. And to be honest, this has been like probably the most consistent that we've been since the launch of the podcast. And I'm really proud of it. And so if you guys have been getting value from this, you already know all we ask is that you share the show with someone that you feel can get value from this. You know, each one teach one, each one reach one. I'm a firm believer that we will do better every single episode. And because we do better, you guys go and do better at sharing it. And so that's all I ask, man. And so guys, you know, if this is your first time listening, you know, we have multiple different types of shows. We got Real Talk. We surf the internet and we talk about some of the things that are happening in the world. Every now and then, man, we bring in my friend Mitzi. We do some mindset stuff. And today, guys, what we're doing is a little bit different. I have not been having guests on the podcast lately. And so this is super exciting for me because it's been back to back. I think last week we had Grizel, and she's like a jiu-jitsu leader, and she is in the insurance industry, and she just killed it, you know? And so I love having ladies on this show, to be honest, especially ones that are just doing amazing things. And this one in particular has been doing amazing things for a while, and I've actually ran into her years ago. And here we are now on a podcast. You know, it's literally like 7 years to the date, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm just super excited to have you. Go on ahead and introduce yourself to the world.
Thanks, Q. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And, you know, it's very interesting. I'm sitting in this seat now because about 5 or 6 years ago, I saw you sharing your story, being vulnerable, putting yourself out there. And I said, man, one of these days, I'm going to be like that. And that's what I want to do. Because, yeah, we share a lot of similar, you know, kind of messed up shit that happened to us growing up. And, you know, to be courageous, to, you know, share yourself like that is so inspiring. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, man, it means a lot to me, really. And having you on the show means a lot to me, too. Because I know we've been connected through the internet for so long.
Yeah.
We've only met maybe like 2 or 3 times in our whole lives. And to see what you've transformed into over the last couple of years has been nothing short of inspiring, literally. You keep me going, too. So the energy reciprocates.
Thanks, Q. So, yeah, my name is Heather Carroll. Oh, sorry. I just got married, so it's Heather Young.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks, yeah. So I live in Austin, Texas, and, you know, I grew up in the projects, man. I kind of started scrappy businesses to get out, and, you know, some of those businesses, I ended up behind bars and served some time. When I got out, I really wanted to make a change and, you know, do things the right way. So I started, you know, flipping motorcycles and cars and started doing some like Airbnb arbitrage, started getting into wholesaling. And now I'm doing land investing where we do like development and subdividing, getting entitlements. Yeah. So, and I mean, on my off time, I also play pickleball, wing foil, surf. Me and my husband, we also co-founded a company, Facet Athlete, where we're helping to, you know, kind of educate people on the fasting, intermittent fasting, and the benefits of that, and using, you know, very simple supplementation to, you know, increase your performance.
Yeah. I love that, Heather. Oh my God, talk about a journey, you know?
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit into that time frame when you were younger and you were in that mindset that I got to get out of here, right?
Right.
What was the moment where you were like, man, I wanted to just, like, what was that moment look like for you? Because I had one too, where you were like, this is it. This is enough. I got to get out of here. What was that moment like for you when you were living in the projects like that?
Yeah. You know, I think that as I got older, I started to realize like where, like the condition I was living in was not normal, you know, that I started going to school and seeing like, you know, the cheerleaders and like all these kids around me, like their parents had, you know, just nice things. They were able to get into sports, and I always wanted to get into sports and play, instruments, but, we were always so poor, like we couldn't have those things. And so, I just started to notice and become aware of my surroundings in school, that there were people doing it differently, and they had more freedom. And
you wanted that same thing.
I wanted that freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just getting older, realizing like, oh, okay, this shit ain't normal.
Yeah. I think a lot of people go through that too, Heather. I've noticed this. Like, I remember when there was this time I went to my friend Benjamin's house, and Benjamin lived like 6 houses down. So my dad let me go over there and hang out with him every now and then. And when I grew up, it was in the 90s. So we were just running around the streets. I don't think it wasn't a big deal like it is now, where kids get picked up and shit like that. Like, I don't think it was there yet.
Right.
And I just felt like we had such safety. You know what I'm saying? And so I would go and just hang out at my friend Benjamin's house, right? And I remember one time he walked in, we were playing Tekken on the PlayStation 1. And I remember the PlayStation 1 had just came out. It was like 98, 99, somewhere around there. And he brought in 2 bowls, milk, and some Captain Crunch cereal. And I got up, like, I freaked out. And he was like, "What's wrong?" And I remember I told him, I was like, "Dude, I don't want your dad to come in here and beat the shit out of us because we didn't ask him if we could eat cereal first."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's what my dad did to me. And, I forgive him for all of those things. And my dad passed away a couple of weeks ago, so it's all right, though. Having gone through the notions of whatnot, like, my dad had 4 or 5 baby mamas. I just met all these half brothers that I've never met in my whole life.
Wow.
But I'll never forget that experience, because he was like, why would my dad come in here and hit us?
Yeah.
And I said, because my dad hits us when we don't ask for cereal, and he marks it so he'll know. Like, I was looking on the boxes to see where the marks were. And I don't, it's crazy to talk about child abuse, because I don't think a lot of people know how real that is. And not a lot of people have experienced that either. They might have experienced some form of abuse, but never like physical getting beat by your dad or mom abuse, And so if you've gone through that, my heart goes out to you. There's plenty of help out there. Don't feel like there's not a way out, because there is. And it took us a long time to figure that out, because we were just so keen on the idea that my dad could change. And I loved my dad. Don't get me wrong. Like, my dad was still like a superhero to me, even though he did all of those things. But for me, it was like, I didn't know that wasn't normal. He said, my dad would never hit us, dude. My dad would never hit us. That's when it came to that this wasn't right. And I remember going to the school and telling the counselors about it. And the counselors were like, they called my dad, they called my mom, and it was a big deal. And my dad came home, beat the fuck out of me, told me never to talk to the counselors again. Ooh. And like, so, I was even scared to go to anybody for help, let alone call the cops about what was going on. And so, like, it's crazy to think about that. Like, when you live in that environment for so long, you really, like, people get trapped in there and they think that that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And then you have this awakening moment where you're like, this isn't what I want to do. This isn't who I want to be. This isn't where I want to go.
Yeah.
And everything changes, So, like, pivoting out of that lifestyle and being from the hood the way that you were, and then now graduating into doing something different. What was the first business venture like? And what did you learn from that?
Yeah, the first business was flipping motorcycles. And I mean, I started it because I loved riding bikes, and it was a way for me to basically get paid for, riding motorcycles. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, the first one that I picked up, I didn't even know how to ride, actually. And the guy, he's like, gives me the title, I give him the cash, and I'm like, "Hey man, can you show me how to ride this?" He's like, I just came on like an Uber or something. He's like, "What? You don't know how to?" I'm like, "No, but I'll figure it out. Just show me what to do."
Yeah.
And I took off on that. But yeah, it kind of just progressed, It was like flipping bikes, and then to cars. And then I was starting to work with a dealer who was allowing me to use his license, and like basically just paying him a fee.
What was the biggest lesson you learned from all of that? Like those side hustles,
Yeah, the biggest lesson, I think, it comes from just the willingness to do whatever it takes. Like, and starting small, like knowing that you have to build from something. And so I was working at a restaurant, and I saved like $1,500. and that was enough for me to buy a small little bike and then flip it. And then, so it was just like, sacrificing the weekends and saving that cash in order to invest it and try to, double it, and just continuing to sacrifice and like say, no, I'm not going out, or I'm not going on those trips. And,
It's hard to have that mindset when you're building something new, man. Like, seriously. And so kudos to you for being able to cultivate that, What are some of like the strategies that you had to implement to maintain that throughout the years? Because I know that the older that you get, it's like people are like, oh, you get more experience, things just get easier. No, the fuck they don't. New levels means new devils, So I'm interested on knowing your take on that, because I know that you're still resilient today with everything that you're doing, and more or less there's like a mindset that needs to be had there. What do you think has been the main thing that you can credit to maintaining that throughout the years?
Yeah, I think that since I saw it as a young girl, like this delayed gratification, it kind of made it fun for me to challenge that part of myself. And so I'm very competitive, and I like to see what I can create. And sometimes I know that it takes a while, and the longer it's going to take, sometimes that's the bigger it's going to be. And so just kind of taking it as a challenge and competing with myself of, how much can I put away to save, and how many trips can I like just sacrifice in order to just like see that pot growing.
Where do you think the competitive side comes from? Like, I'm wondering, was it like a parent or like a family member, or you just always been that way?
I think I've always been that way.
Like, I kind of want to ask what your zodiac sign is, but I don't know if people can align with that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're going to blame our feelings on stars and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm a Cancer, man. I'm emotional, bro. I've always been that way, but I'm competitive too. Mm-hmm. And that actually came from when I was a kid, when I was in sports.
Yes, sports will do it.
For me, it was like, playing football, I learned a lot about teamwork and brotherhood and just companionship. So like that I really feel like I drove a lot of that into my business. Right. So like the competitive side for you, is it just more like a demand for something greater than what you're doing, or is that just something that you learned from somebody?
Yeah, I would say that, it started from just this desire to like want more for myself. And, growing up where I had to help my family and like provide for my family was, something that it was not, I think it was just like an innate desire to, keep pushing and driving forward, so I could help people out.
Were you like mama bear in your family?
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
See, I always feel like that's something that parents, they have this tendency to drive on us. I remember when my dad left the house, my mom rushed to tell me, "You're the man of the house now."
Oh, wow.
And, you tell a 10-year-old kid that, there's just like so much responsibility. Like, bro, I barely started collecting Pokemon cards, and now you're telling me I'm the man of the house?
Right.
This guy who's trying to train to be a Pokemon master is going to be the man of this house. And it was a big responsibility,
Oh, yeah.
But I also knew that it was the environment that I was in and how badly I didn't want to be in that environment. And so I would have done anything to get out of it. I did anything and everything to get out of that.
Yeah.
But, like as I found certain things, it's like you meet certain people at different levels, and each of those people bleed into something deeper that means more to you in your life.
Right.
Like, I like, how many people have you met doing everything that you've done to get to this point?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sure that you can recall like maybe 10 of them that were like legitimately that person that drove our attention and direction into something that was different.
100%.
And that's why I think mentorship and coaching is so important, because it just takes one person. Do you have a coach and a mentor in your life, in your business?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I use, for my real estate business, I have an advisor. For just like my health and wellness, my husband is very well versed in that space. So, he helps me in there. And I even just like, a lot of people who've died, like, are my mentors, and I study, like old, philosophy and
authors and
like study what they did, and I read a lot about that.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. The health business that you guys have created,
Yeah.
where did that idea come from? Because it's so awesome. You guys have your own nutrition line that you're launching and everything too, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's amazing. And what was the
Yeah.
name of the company again?
It's Fast Athlete.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so like, how did that even come about?
Yeah, that was my husband's like brainchild, and for the longest time he had been taking these 3 supplements, and that's all that he takes. And everywhere we go, like especially if he has his shirt off, people are like, "Dude, what do you do? Like, how do you look like that?" Because he's jacked, and he's all natural. And it just kind of became like it was scratching his own itch. And when I first met him, he was working as a catastrophe adjuster.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, he was doing like a lot long hours and going into like hurricanes and flood zone, like really bad situations, and like quarterbacking and trying to like get everything.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Kudos to him for doing that.
He really loved it. But when I met him, I was like, man, this isn't scalable. Like we need to figure out what we can do to like, grow. And so we had many conversations about like, him leading a team and building a business. And yeah, it just kind of like was scratching his own itch. He really believed in these 3 ingredients, and he liked this simple approach. He had been intermittent fasting for most of his career and had seen like an increase in his energy and in his focus and strength. And so those 3 ingredients are creatine, which is like one of the most researched, products out there.
Yeah.
Creatine, slow release caffeine, and lion's mane mushroom, which lion's mane mushroom and a lot of the functional mushrooms right now are really taking off because of their benefits for the brain health. And I mean, even psychedelic mushrooms now we're starting to come into the space, which is so exciting.
It's
like
amazing.
There's so much potential there.
I'm loving all of the research and whatnot. And what
Right.
you're saying is validated. I've read about these things. What is the effects of that lion mushroom? What is that?
Yeah, the lion's mane is a nootropic. So, increases cognitive function. It's great for brain health.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've also learned the benefits of creatine and strength training.
Yes.
So there was a while where I just said, you know what, I'd lost 100 pounds. And I said, you know what, to hell with getting skinny. I don't want that. I want strength. I want to be strong. And so my trainer switched from doing muscle hypertrophy, which is what we were doing, to just straight up raw strength training. And so I would go and see him at the gym, and we'd be in there for 2 hours. 2 hours in the gym, because between each set, I'm lifting 80% of my max, and there's 5 minutes of rest between each set.
Oh, yeah.
So we're like going all out. I'm like,
Intense.
my squat at the height of my game in November, prior to my heart attack that I had, I had a heart attack.
Whoa.
Yeah, there was a lot though. I was putting a lot of stress on my body.
Sure.
I had gone through a 10-year divorce. I was going through the notions of business and lack of sleep, caffeine, massive amounts of caffeine, because I was taking that. I drink 3 or 4 energy drinks while I'd be here at the office. I just thought I was invincible, and I would still train. But, with all of those things happening, on the days where I got a solid 8 hours of sleep, I would go to the gym and put everything I got into that. And I was eating 6,000 calories a day, damn near 400 grams of protein a day, putting so much into my body, from testosterone to peptides to different things to increase my hormone levels to make me stronger, which I don't recommend to anybody that's watching this. That's not health. And a lot of strength athletes do this, but they're also under the care of physicians that are very, very closely monitoring them.
Totally.
Any bodybuilder who gets on a stage that's competing at any Mr. Olympia has a team of probably $100,000 worth of doctors behind them that are literally facilitating that physique, because they know at any time that person can go into cardiac arrest. And you're damaging organs by doing these things. So always make sure that before you guys decide to get on testosterone replacement therapy, that's typically the gateway to getting into that.
Yeah.
Because once you realize you can inject yourself with testosterone, everything else opens up. Now you're like, what more can I put in, right? And you don't know how your body reacts to any of this because it's never experienced it before.
Right.
And so like I gone all in strength training. My deadlift was 700 pounds. My squat was 750 and my bench was 415. And that was at the height of my game, literally just picking up weight. And I remember I dropped about 100 pounds and I went right back up to 300. And that was the sustainable weight for me to be that strong. Now I weigh 240 and I've lost damn near I just hit 237 if I want to be, bragging on this podcast real quick. But I've lost like fucking 60 pounds in a 4-month period of time, man.
That's amazing.
Just switching to muscle hypertrophy. Now I have atrial fibrillation in my heart. And now I have to be careful on what I eat and what I consume. But guess what? Creatine is good for the heart because your heart needs hydration. Water retention is good. Same with glutamine. Glutamine's also good for the heart.
Glutamine is great, yeah.
So, it's crazy though. I love that. So these supplements that you guys have going on right now, what would you say is the benefits that people get out of it? Because clearly your husband has a physique that's just like insane, right?
Yeah.
And he's maintained it. You said that he's natural.
He's all natural.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what do you think the benefits of this combination of 3 substances do to the body?
Yeah. So this first product is called Lift, and it is a daily energy supplement. So this is going to just like give you the boost that you need throughout the day without, grabbing those energy drinks and coffee. And it's a slow release caffeine. So the caffeine is not just like one big pump of caffeine, you get it throughout the day. So that, a lot of people experience that like afternoon slump or, after work, you're not really interested in going to work out. Like you've been working all day, like you use a lot of brain power. You're just exhausted, So with that, it just kind of like gives you that extra boost to do an extra few hours of work or, hit the gym. And the creatine does help build muscle. And like you said, the water retention. So that's the first product. And then we have another product that's launching that's going to be for your gut health. Wow. And so, once you get your gut, like now we're talking about like increasing your mood, your hair, your skin, your nails. Like there's so much that starts fundamentally in the gut.
Yeah. That's why they call it the core, which is the foundation.
Core. Yeah.
I love that. A lot of people would say that you don't even have to work out your core that often because your core is the main muscle that you use.
Right.
Have you heard of that?
No.
Yeah. So like in a squat, you're using a lot of your core. In a bench, you're using your core. Your core is like one of your most used muscles. So like, I know some people that'll just target core and they'll do sit-ups until they bleed, but I truthfully believe that everything stems from the core. And you learn a lot about what people's imbalances are just by working out with them. You can see if they're weak on the left arm or weak on the right. Creatine tends to balance you out on strength. And I think that's one of the benefits there. Yeah.
As well as with the brain, but brain health, like creatine does have cognitive function as well.
This would literally benefit any entrepreneur listening to this, right?
100%.
You said it was called the Lion something. The
Lion's Mane.
Lion's Mane mushroom. Yeah. So where can we find this supplement? In your website?
Yeah. facetathlete.com. Okay. We're on Amazon as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And this is like in pill form?
This is, capsules.
So you take this like with a meal or can you take it on an empty stomach?
So we do recommend for males. Women, I think with the fasting, definitely want to kind of look into your cycles and time it properly with that. Do research on that based upon your own body and what it's craving. But for men, I think, the intermittent fasting is really going to be the best thing for your body and your longevity. So we do educate people on the intermittent fasting. Do you fast?
I have only ever tried it one time and I failed miserably. So
really?
Like, what would you say is like the minimum fast? It's like a 12-hour one, no? Or like
start with 12 hours. I think that people with a lot of health things, like people try to go so far on doing like 2-hour workouts and, all these grams of proteins and doing, changing their diet dramatically. And it's just not sustainable, especially if you've never done those things. And now you just go and just try all of this stuff at once. You could have a heart attack.
That happened to me. Yeah. I'm a prime example of it.
So it's like, do the things like just skip breakfast, go outside for a walk. Like it can be very simple, you know, and that's a start to just kind of get that momentum, and then you'll start feeling better. You'll start feeling more energy. And yeah, with the fasting, you know, if you just go and do a 24-hour fast, you've never fasted in your life, you're not going to like it. You probably will never do it again.
Yeah.
You know, but by just extending out your window an hour every time, it gets easier, and then you start feeling like a lot more energy. And
that's why I never agreed with programs like the P90X program.
yeah.
Drastic. Major drastic body shift. Your body doesn't even know how to respond to it.
Exactly.
You're losing both muscle and body fat because you're going so far into cardio. And muscle, like I truthfully believe we don't have an obesity problem. I believe that we have a lack of muscle problem.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like a controversial thing to say for people that are listening to this, but truthfully, if more fat people worked out more often, and this is coming from a guy who's 416 pounds.
Right.
If more fat people went and strength trained more often and focused on muscle, they would gradually be healthier, even at a heavy set of weight that they have. Whether they're 40% body fat, 30% body fat, truthfully, you need to have some type of muscle on your body. Yeah. I didn't work out for years. Legitimately, I think the last time I started working out, between the time frames of when I started in it was November of 2020 is when I started my fitness journey. So I'm almost 4 years in the gym. I'm still going to the gym, even post heart attack. But from like 2010 to 2020, I didn't work out not a day in my life. And all I did was eat fast food and drink alcohol. And I'm 4 years sober from alcohol.
Wow.
Yeah, in June it'll be 4 years. It's been a whole adventure, and I'm very, very happy for the decision that I've made to do that. You know, it didn't stop me from having a heart attack because obviously there are other things that are involved. But I think truthfully, like anything else, you have to ease into it.
Right.
Otherwise, you could just implode. You really don't know how your body handles it until you go through it. And so I love the fact that you're talking about compounded efforts to increase it. It's like going to the gym and you haven't lifted in so long and you just immediately go to like 300 pounds. No, bro, like ease into it. You're going to hurt yourself, man. It's the same thing too with your diet. It's the same thing too with your supplements. You should ease into these things because you don't know how your body's going to react yet. The fasting thing, what is the recommended fast that you believe that is essential for anybody just starting out?
For men or women? Because
both.
Women,
let's do both.
Yeah, women, you know, we have so much
I'm more interested with the women.
hormones.
I'm honestly, because I feel like with men, it's like 24 hours to start.
Yeah, I mean, for men, I think 12 hours to start, just so you don't, like you said, overexert yourself and then you stop doing it.
Yeah.
You have to, like, you know, ease into it. That way your body can adjust to the change. So, you know, starting out with 12 and then 13, 14. So now what I do, and I've kind of tested out what works best for me and my cycle, which I think that everybody is different and the way that their body is going to respond to that.
Does a fast affect your cycle, like your menstrual cycle?
Well,
like worse or like
it can,
or like throws it off?
It throws it off. It can, because you're just like anything when you're in that phase, like you're overexerting your body. And, you know, if you think about it, when we were, you know, like our ancestors or our cavemen, you know. Yeah,
going back in ancient times.
Yeah, like the women were at home, you know, with the families, and they were eating foods and they were, you know, kind of caring for the family, and while the men were out hunting and they were, you know, hadn't got a kill for a long time. So they were used to days, you know, so their body was already, you know, in that fat burning machine because they had a lot of stored energy and fat that they were just using. So for women, for me, I like to fast. I'll have my last meal at 7, 8 p.m. And then I have my first meal the next day at 11, 12. Amazing. So basically just skipping breakfast. It's pretty simple.
I love that. And it's a cool way to ease into it too.
Right.
What do you feel that the fitness, now being in the fitness industry, and just doing what you do, because I'm positive if you have a fitness dude, come on, you guys work out together a lot?
No, actually we don't. It's not really efficient because he like lifts a lot more than I do. So to be changing the weights and doing all that, like, it's just not an efficient way, honestly.
Gotcha.
I mean,
but you guys are very active. Like, you're both in the
very
gym.
active.
So,
yeah.
like, how is being in the fitness realm? What has that done for you in business?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that for most of my like activity, I actually do sports. So like wing foiling and
What is that? Wing foiling?
wing foiling is so it's kind of like wind surfing.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
But the foil is under the board, and the foil kind of works as like a airplane, so that it lifts the board on top of the water. So you're hovering on top of the water with the foil. And then you're using a wing to sail. And so it requires a ton of upper body and lower body strength, because you're basically balancing on a little, stick. And
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And that's kind of what, for me, wing foiling, it took me about 4 months of just straight eating shit before I actually like could ride.
Wow.
And doing something like that that's so uncomfortable, and just like staying motivated and disciplined to keep going back, that translates so well in business.
It does.
Because I mean, you walk into a meeting and people are like, oh man, we didn't hit our number to this week, or we didn't do that. It's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, this isn't that hard. Like, I've faced way worse problems, and like, this ain't shit compared. And so just having that mindset of like, when you can physically assert your body and like get into these, these places of really challenging yourself physically, it's like you feel just like you can take on anything.
Literally.
Literally. Yeah,
I think it formulates the belief.
Yeah.
Because belief is a driving factor for me. Like it like I just know that as long as I keep my faith strong, and I align myself with the Lord, and I continuously walk the path.
Yeah.
It says this in the Bible, and I don't mean to get preacher mode on you guys, but it says, although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me.
That's right.
I love that, right? And I carry that into everything that I do when I'm uncomfortable doing it. And I know a lot of people might freak out about this, but like, really, you got to put yourself there. For me, it's God, right? For other people, it could be anything.
Yeah.
I remember when I deadlift, I pray before it that God gives me strength to pick this weight up.
Oh yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy, but there's another guy that is this going to be even crazier. His name's Eddie Hall. And he's one of the strongest men in the world. He was the first person to break the 1,100 pound deadlift. And that's a massive amount of weight, huge stress on the body, right?
Yeah.
And so he, in an interview, says this. He says that he pictured that the weight was a car parked on his wife and son.
Whoa.
And he had to pick it up no matter what.
Yeah.
And he literally put himself there. And if you look at that video, he's crying when he's about to lift the weight, because he knows that this is it. Like, he made it so real.
Yeah.
It was like he hypnotized himself into believing that he could do it. And so for a lot of people that might be listening to this podcast right now, all the success that Heather and her husband have had, and just individually in them now as a couple, a lot of that stems from belief. And it's the belief within yourself that you are capable of doing these things. Exactly. I mean, look at that. You said 4 months, right? 4 months to get down that surfboard thing.
Yeah.
What is it? Wing foiling?
Wing foiling.
Man, look at that. Like, come on. The level of tenacity and grit that you have to throw into that. Most people quit within the first 2 tries. They say, man, this isn't for me, but you kept going. And that's what I felt was so valuable to me when I tried on the 75 Hard program.
Right.
I failed 8 times to get it right. 8 times in a 2-year span. Why did I even keep going? People thought I was crazy. They said, Q, exactly like what most people say about the program. They say, dude, that's fucking wild. Why are you going to do that to yourself? That's not beneficial. That's not sustainable long term. I just wanted to challenge myself for what is a very small fraction of the rest of my life.
Right.
Because I know that most men, I mean, they're going to live until they're about 86 years old. Women live until like 90 this day and age. It's crazy. But if you take care of yourself, right? 75 days makes up a very, 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 very small fraction of like 50 plus years, right?
Yeah.
Very small. And so if you can dedicate yourself to just 75 days of seeing a program through, there's no way that you can't be successful with it. You just got to have that mindset that you're going to see it through. And once
Yeah.
you do, it bleeds into everything else.
100%.
At least that's how I feel about it anyway. But I love what you've been able to accomplish, you know, and with all of the things that you have going on, what do you think is the thing that gives you the most, I'll say, like, what's the most fulfilling thing? Like out of everything? Because I know you're in the land and that has its own thing, right?
Sure.
But like, which one feeds your soul? Because you have your hands in a lot of businesses right now.
Right. Yeah. You know, I would say it took me a while to realize what was the most fulfilling. I thought when I was younger, I was very money driven. And
Yeah.
I thought, man, if I make 100,000, I'm going to be good. And then I made 100,000. I was like, maybe it's 500,000. Maybe it's $1 million.
Yeah.
And you get to those levels and you hit those money goals and it's like, you're at the top and you're like, you know, this actually ain't that great.
Yep.
You know, so now my motivation is rooted in like helping other people that were like me, you know, finding ways to contribute and serve others and being on places like this and talking to you and sharing my story, being vulnerable, you know, those are ways that are ultimately the most fulfilling now that I've hit the money goals and I'm like, okay, that's cool. But you know, that shit fades, you know, you'll get a nice car and you'll have it for the first couple of weeks. You're like, yeah, this is awesome. And then it just goes away and you feel like, okay, well, what's next? But yeah, that feeling that you get when you help somebody, you know, who has been struggling, they hear your story or, you know, you teach them how to fish. Yeah. Like that is the most fulfilling.
I love that so much. We're like a lot alike, you know that?
Yeah.
It's really cool because that's how I feel about it too. I got all those things too. And not one of them, you know, I'd probably, if somebody told me that like someone I loved was going to pass away unless I traded all those things for one more day with them, man, if it was my mom, I'd give it all away in a heartbeat because that's more meaningful to me, you know? And so like, I think that when you're purpose driven and it's fueled by the passion and the undying need and desire to literally change the life of every single human being that comes into contact with you.
Yeah.
There's just something that's so much more about that. That's why I opened up this place because meeting people like you, this fulfills me. This conversation fulfills me.
Right.
And so as I've grown and as I've progressed in business, I've just learned that there's so much more to life than a dollar amount. There's so much more to life than having possessions. And when you grow out of the need for those things is when you reach that next level. And that next level, man, is just so much more valuable, man. Like nowadays, like after having the heart attack situation, I love and value spending time with my son and spending time with my friends, being on the water. And dude, like I was so money hungry for the longest time, you know, and it just it's not sustainable, dude. Yeah. It literally landed me in a fucking hospital. Yeah, and man. So like I will do everything I can to get out of that and to make sure that I'm aligning myself with something that's more purpose driven. And in doing so, the level of wealth that I wish to attain will probably be on the other side of that.
That's right.
It's almost like guaranteed, you know? Yeah. But dude, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, seeing it from a woman's perspective too, it gives me validation that even I am going in the right way because I am not perfect, man. I made mistakes. You've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes, right? But we aren't the mistakes that we make. We're how we choose to correct them. That is something that I learned, and I had to learn that shit the hard way. Yeah. You know? So how can my viewers that are listening to this podcast get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me at fastathlete.com, landexchange.com, wholesale land direct, also Facebook, Instagram, Heather Young.
We'll throw it all out in the comment section below. I appreciate you being on the podcast, Heather. Man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah, for sure. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.
I want the check.